In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone and Gerhard Mathangani.
Happy Monday and welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. It is a big week in the SEC. Not only the games, but also what happened after the games. There you're looking at Sam Pittman, who spent the last few years as the Arkansas head coach. Before that was the offensive line coach at Georgia. He is now the former Razorbacks head coach after a disappointing loss to Notre Dame. He is out, making him the first firing in the SEC. We've already seen a handful of Power 4 schools depart with their head coach. The SEC having its first as Sam Pittman is now out in Fayetteville. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Patrick Walsh today. And Patrick, it was one of these things where we talked about this with our friends in the Arkansas area. We talked about this with Trey Dare. We also talked about this with Courtney Mims a few times, how it seemingly was, hey, this thing better get corrected quickly for Sam Pittman to keep his job.
Yeah, and I mean, you really feel bad for Sam Pittman because, you know, he's just such a great guy. But the writing was on the wall, so to speak, from a couple weeks ago with the whole Hunter Yurachek comments on NIL,
right,
and that Arkansas doesn't have the money to compete with some of the other programs in the SEC. But you know, in this league especially, you have to win or else you're gone. And as you can see, Sam Pittman is the first SEC domino to fall, so to speak. I don't think he'll be the last. I think we'll have a few more before the end of the season. But, you know, this was an Arkansas team that was trying to right the ship after a few bad years for the program.
Right.
And, you know, you had the 2 wins against in-state opponents to start the year. And then ever since then, the rails have just fallen off. I mean, worst defense in the SEC. That's been a major problem. And when you give up 50 plus to Notre Dame, that calls for someone to get fired.
Yeah, I think that they had to make a change. And you made a great point about the athletic director. He didn't really help out either, and we'll see if he'll be able to retain his job after the season ends as well. We will get a lot of insight from our friends there in Arkansas after the big news today. Sam Pittman now out as the Arkansas head coach. Let's take a look at some of the topics for today before we dive a little bit more into this Sam Pittman news. We will talk a lot more about Sam Pittman. Also, Alabama ends a 33-game home winning streak. The Georgia Bulldogs held a great win for Alabama, and it's a far cry from where Alabama was just a month ago when they lost to Florida State. We'll dive into Alabama's big win in Athens. Also, Texas, they are now facing the Florida Gators as they jump into SEC play. There was some ups, there were some downs over the first few games. We'll see where the Longhorns stand. And how about Vandy? 5-0, 1 win away from securing bowl eligibility again. We will see if they can get that win. A huge win this week as they come to Tuscaloosa. All eyes will be on that. We'll talk about a little bit more about that in a moment. But first, also, Patrick, I know that you have some numbers there for Arkansas going into this season or into this game, and just how disappointing it has been overall for this Arkansas football team. And is that necessarily just, as you mentioned, the fact that they have been the champions of almost for a really long time? We've heard that from our friends. We're champions of almost. They weren't almost on the field with Notre Dame on Saturday. 56 points they gave up, and obviously this comes the week after they lost to Memphis there in a big game, 32-31 there in Memphis. And so things have really fallen off, as you said, very quickly there at Arkansas. And we'll talk a little bit about the replacement for Arkansas, because it is a very familiar face that used to do the Woo Pig Suey. And a crazy tenure there as Bobby Petrino now takes over as the new interim head coach. We will see if basically this can be a job interview for Petrino and how he handles these last few games.
Maybe see if he can get the interim tag off him. But I do want to go back to Sam Pittman here for a second. As you can see, here's a look at his record during his Hogs tenure. I mean, the best thing was he went 3-0 in bowl games when he got Arkansas to there. But as you can see, those last 2 bullet points, 425 yards allowed per game, and then 30 points allowed per game. Worst in the SEC in both of these categories. I mean, you just can't win ball games when you're allowing offenses to go up and down the field at will, as they please. And I mean, C.J. Carr looked really nice against Arkansas. 2 days ago, and it was a weird start to the year for Notre Dame.
Right.
They started 0-2, and what was going on, but since then they've won 2 straight. Now Arkansas is going to turn to Bobby Petrino to see if they can right the ship. But honestly, I think this is a deeper problem than just the head coach. There's more. It's rooted in something bigger, and that's just how the sport is nowadays.
And Coach Pittman always coached and taught physicality,
yes,
and being physical at the point of scrimmage, the line of scrimmage, and he was known as a tough, gritty guy. Former offensive line coach there at Georgia, everybody loved him, but it felt like whatever edge that they used to try to play with, it feels like it is gone, and it feels like the hunger and the drive for that team to play a physical style of football had completely decimated, especially on defense. And we've talked about this a few times here on this program about where Arkansas was. And it felt like there's an old saying that the key to happiness is expectation.
Yes.
And you highlighted it really well there on the graphic, because they went 3-0 in bowl games. It felt like they ended off the season on a really strong note every year. And I felt like the next year was, this is our year. And I felt like the next year was, this is our year. Got a big bowl win. As you mentioned, got 2 wins in state. Got a huge win against Arkansas State. So the expectation felt like we should be moving in the right direction, and then it just comes completely falling off.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at that Week 3 game against Ole Miss, and that's not even a bad loss looking at where Ole Miss is now in the top 5, which that shocked me.
Yeah.
But it was a 1-possession game that they lost to Ole Miss, and here you are thinking, okay, Arkansas, they're not going to be that bad this year. They're going to actually compete, because, I mean, there were some expectations going into the year for Ole Miss. Obviously, they didn't know who was going to start at quarterback. The projection was Austin Simmons. He gets hurt, and now it's Trinidad Chambliss. But, looking back, that wasn't a bad loss. But then you go to the next week, and the loss to Memphis by 1, that kind of had people on edge. And we lose by 43 points
at home. Yeah,
that's unfathomable.
Yeah, and that was the kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. But I agree with you. I think that this does run deeper. And if it wasn't the Notre Dame game, it would be some other game down the road. And it felt like Sam Pittman would always win a game or 2 that would end up saving his job. It felt like for the last maybe couple of years, it felt like, okay, 2 to 3 wins. Okay, we're coming up. We're coming back here. We're coming back here. And it never really turned around for Sam Pittman. And like you said, you feel bad for him because everybody likes him, and he will not be unemployed for very long. Of course, he'll hold on for it to get every dime of the buyout that's available to him. But he is such a really good offensive line coach, and he is a great recruiter. So there is going to be a lot of coaches that really want him on the staff to be able to shed his knowledge about offensive line play especially, and being able to get recruits. But they're losing recruits left and right now, because obviously it's a unshaky ground right now, and the players at the end of the season will all have time to hop into the transfer portal as well. So I expect Arkansas to look completely different next year, going into next season, depending on how they finish off the year. But they have one man right now in charge to take over for the next few games. It is former Arkansas coach Bobby Petrino. It feels like these two just can't quit each other.
No.
Petrino and Arkansas seem to be joined there at the hip. We have seen Bobby Petrino had a fall from grace.
Yes.
Obviously, the motorcycle incident was the one that was the straw that broke the camel's back there for his time at Arkansas. He's rehabilitated himself. He had a really strong run there at Louisville and a couple of other stops. He's known as an offensive genius. He now has a great quarterback at Tyron Green. Can they make that next step with him? Can they win a few games and get some momentum? We will find out there. But I find it really interesting that it's Bobby Petrino back as the head coach there with the Razorbacks.
We were talking about this yesterday, and I sent to the group chat, like, oh my goodness, like, Pittman is gone.
Right.
And then you go, is that really going to be Bobby Petrino that's going to take over in the meantime? And push comes to shove, yeah, it is him. But, he wasted no time. Yes. He got rid of the entire defensive staff after, as we were talking about, worse in the SEC through the first 5 weeks.
Right.
And I mean, he was like, you know what, I'm going to get to it. I've got a job I've got to do. And I mean, this is a tryout for him because he could end up winning that job back.
That's the thing. And I had to go back and pull up his numbers. He was the Arkansas head coach for 4 seasons. His last season as a head coach, they went 11-2, and they won the Cotton Bowl. So he's got a really strong tenure as the Arkansas head coach, and then obviously did some great rehabilitation there at Louisville and then at Missouri State. In a couple of games, he ended up going to Missouri State. He went to the NCAA first round of the FCS tournament there. So it is Bobby Petrino who is back, and they have some weapons.
Yes,
they have weapons here on offense. So I don't know about the defense because, as you mentioned, the entire defensive staff is gone, most notably Travis Williams, who coached at Auburn, who played at Auburn back in the day, known as a really good recruiter himself. So they are starting from scratch defensively, but I do expect this team to score some points over the course of the next few weeks here. Now, will they have to win shootouts? Probably so. Yeah,
I mean, when you've got Taylon Green under center at quarterback, I mean, you're going to win some games. The offense hasn't been the problem, as we've mentioned.
Right.
It's just been the defense. But, Bobby Petrino did talk a little bit today in his press conference about what his plans for the defense are heading into the rest of the season. Let's take a listen.
Whenever you make a decision, you base it off of, number one, what's best for the team. Number two, what's best for the individual players. And I felt that, it was in our best interest to do what we did this morning for our players to improve individually, get a little bit more motivated. And I think it'll help our team overall get out on the field and compete and find ways to win a game. Yeah, I mean, the first thing we have to do is get back to the principles of good defense, which is get into a great stance, get into a great alignment, run full speed to the football, shed blocks, and tackle well. To stop people on offense, you have to stop the run first, and we haven't been able to stop the run first. Some of it's been our fits by our linebackers. Some of it's been errors. So we're looking right now at really finding out what our base defense is going to be from here on, and then build the package out of that and simplify a little bit. If we simplify and play faster and full speed, then we'll have a better opportunity to stop people.
One thing that really caught my ear about this, Patrick, and we just talked about this as the sound was playing, it feels like the offense, as you said, that they feel good about it.
Yep.
And the defense is going all the way back to literally square one. Hey, he was talking about alignment and assignment and running to the football. It just feels like this defense is like, you don't want to have this 5 games in, but it feels like the defense is literally starting back from square one.
Well, I mean, sometimes you have to start from square one.
Yeah.
I mean, we were sitting in this room about a month ago talking about Kalen DeBoer and Alabama's lack of effort against Florida State.
Yeah.
And they were just talking about, man, we just got to get back to the basics.
Yeah.
We got to control what we can control. And then Alabama goes and rips off a nice little win streak here. But, I mean, you look at it, and it's an Arkansas team that, as we've mentioned, it's a team of almost. They're this close to competing in the SEC. They just need a semi-decent defense to go with their offense that I know is going to score points the rest of the year.
Yes.
But, I mean, when you look at the road ahead for Arkansas, it's not pretty. And when you have a defense that is as questionable as this one has been this year, it's going to be a struggle for Bobby Petrino to get, I think, 4 wins the rest of the way. I mean, you look at it, it's tough.
It's a brutal schedule there. So Arkansas, the first SEC team to have a coaching vacancy and an interim head coach, but he's not the first overall, especially with the Power 4 conferences. We have a few guys that have now been fired and now looking for their job. Of course, we are running on this really accelerated calendar here. As you take a look at the 4 guys that were coaching Power 4 schools, seemingly all 4 are in different places. Gundy was there for forever. Sam Pittman had a nice little run at Arkansas. Deshaun Foster really just kind of got there at UCLA, and Brent Pry was trying to start things there at Virginia Tech. So it's not necessarily one size fits all here. These coaching vacancies are seemingly across the board as far as the different situations that led to them being fired.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Gundy, that one was a little bit of a shocker in a way. I mean, he had been there for so long. Everybody knew that he was Oklahoma State football, but when you lose to Tulsa, then you've kind of got to make a change.
Yeah.
And then the same goes with Brent Pry. If you lose to Old Dominion,
you
kind of got to make a change. I mean, you lose to your own. programs that lost to Group of 5 in-state foes.
Yeah.
And it just felt like changes had to be made. And then obviously with this past weekend, Sam Pittman and Arkansas losing by 40, it just felt like there's got to be fresh faces in charge of these programs. And honestly, just going forward, it's going to be tough for all of these. But, I mean, I know Virginia Tech, I believe, had a nice bounce-back win this past weekend over NC State. But going forward, it's going to be tough for the Hogs.
Absolutely. We have a great array of guests on for today's show. Here in just a few minutes, we will catch up with our good friend Trey Dare, who almost basically kind of called this. He said that there's an opportunity here that if it doesn't look bad, if it doesn't look good, it could be really bad for Sam Pittman. Also, Roger Wallace will check in with us as the Texas Longhorns are heading into SEC play. And Corey Curtis, he had a big old smile on his face last week when he was talking about Vanderbilt and just how good they are. Well, they still have a 0 in the loss column. And Corey will join us from Nashville here, our great array of Next Star Nation guests, breaking down all things in the SEC. Stay with us here on Southeast Sports Plus. We will talk with Trey Dare on the other side of the break. And welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. We got a chance to catch up with our good buddy Trey Dare moments ago about the Arkansas firing. One of Arkansas's permanent rivals going into next year is the Texas Longhorns. So there'll be a new coach on the sideline for that matchup, both this year and moving forward. We're now catching up with our good buddy Roger Wallace. Fixed up some audio issues during the break there. First off, Roger, let's get your opinion here. Obviously, you've known the SEC, you've been around this conference, you know Arkansas and this football team. What was your initial reaction there to Arkansas firing Sam Pittman?
Well, honestly, my brother's a Notre Dame grad. On that last touchdown of the half, I texted, I don't know if he can survive this. And it wasn't, 42.5 is bad. But the way Arkansas defended that last touchdown after the turnover and then the reactions around the stadium, he's been at best a 500 coach. His win was against Texas back in Sark's first year, and they really manhandled Texas in that game. And that was kind of Sark's moment to realize we don't have SEC interior linemen on either side of the ball. But yeah, it wasn't surprised. Look at guys, quick trigger, right? In all Power 4 conferences now, there's an opening, and we're still a couple of days away from October 1st. So that one was bad for so many reasons. National TV, first time Notre Dame's ever been there, and they just, they look like they lost a little interest on defense, getting run over by that Notre Dame team.
Yeah, absolutely. And now they'll have a new coach for that matchup there against Texas. Speaking of Texas, the guys were off this past week, having a chance to really recalibrate the first few games of the season. How did this team handle the bye week? Some coaches do a little bit differently, where they take that first week and have them not practice at all, and then come back and go a little harder the second week. Sometimes it's vice versa. What was the bye week like there in Austin?
They practiced last week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, fairly normal, probably more reps for the younger guys. And then off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, came back this morning and got into their normal week. Sark talked about, he said we could hear him in practice today, and that was good. That energy, that urgency he wanted to see coming back. Obviously, they're getting after it now with 3 or 4 straight road games, 3 true road games, and the Oklahoma game in the month of October. So I think he's hoping that they can take what they did with Sam Houston, realizing the competition goes way up, but just the fact that his team looked like what he wanted to see them, and translate it into this month and try to get on a little bit of a roll here.
Texas came in as the number 1 team in the nation, and we've seen a bit of an up and down, but it seems like the last game, as you mentioned, the Sam Houston game, it was up again, and they scored 55 points there. Now coming into the SEC, going up against Florida, a hungry Florida team that has looked good in spurts, but obviously not the season they have wanted. What's the overall take about the way Texas is now going to handle SEC play as the competition ratchets up?
Well, I think everyone left that game at Ohio State going disappointing. Thought there were chances to win the game, but not the worst thing in the world to lose on the road to number 1, or now the number 1, but the defending champs, et cetera. And then they took care of San Jose State, and you're like, okay, we saw some good things, even though it was just a spurt of offense and defense that really put that game away. And then the big questions came in the UTEP game: what happened to the offense? What's going on with Arch? And then Sam Houston's a winless team. So while everything looked clean, I think basically we're kind of right where we thought they would be after the Ohio State game. Okay, let's see what they can do in this stretch in October, starting at Florida, regardless of what Florida's done. And Sark has pointed out, look at their last 3 ball games, played really good teams to a Miami team that maybe is an outstanding team. Their problems all seem to be pretty consistent on the offensive end. Sark very concerned about that Florida defense. And, it's kind of one of those things where you go, we don't want to be the team when they figure it out. Yeah. And so I'm sure he's thinking that very well could be Saturday afternoon after they had a bye week as well.
If you're Texas right now, if you're Ohio State right now, you're almost everybody's Super Bowl. You're almost everybody's big game, the one that they all get up for. I expect the Swamp to be unbelievably enthusiastic and energized. What's the overall message as you do go into hostile environment in the SEC, knowing, like you said, that you don't want to be the team where they figured it out, or you don't want to be the team where the outside noise kind of gets to you? What's that like internally for this football team as they go to a place like the Swamp that has this legendary status across college football?
Yeah, and I think that's where the Ohio State game will help them, not because, that was a month ago. These are, it's a team that kind of evolves, but what you're talking about, the atmosphere, the hype, the mystique of that stadium. They went to the Horseshoe. They watched them unfurl the banner for the national championship. They saw Lee Corso put on the mascot head for the final. I mean, they saw it all.
Yeah.
It was the perfect storm. So in that regard, this won't be anything that has their eyes wide open, but it's going to be different just because it's a different place, different fan base, and a different time in the season. They've had a really good road record, 11 straight road wins prior to the Ohio State game. They won at Alabama a couple of years ago. Last year, they won at Texas A&M. They won at Arkansas. Arkansas gave them a really good game. So in that regard, I think they're well equipped. Question is, can their offense do enough? Can they, exploit Florida enough defensively and then keep Florida's offense from finding some rhythm and finding some explosive plays? DJ Lagway, assuming he's healthy, and we think he is despite the reports that he was in a boot, playing against the team from his home state. Sark recruited him. Seems like we tell that story with every quarterback they face at a Power 5. But anyway, yeah, that it's all that And then, if they get down 14-0 or something, then you kind of wonder, okay, how are they going to handle this? Ohio State was one thing, but this place now, the lid might come off because of all the frustration in Gainesville as well.
Roger, all the eyes have been around Arch Manning this whole season, not the start that he wanted. It seemed like he bounced back against Sam Houston. Do you think Texas being off this past week is going to hurt Arch Manning's momentum, or do you think it's going to help him gain some more?
Yeah, that's interesting because, you're right. He probably wanted to get right back out there and play after finally having some good feelings. But I think he's realistic, too. He knows it's going to be a much different animal that they're facing on Saturday than Sam Houston. So I think he probably realized that the bye came at a good time for a lot of reasons. One, he may get some big weapons back in Quintravian Wisner and possibly C.J. Baxter. So those would have been their 1 and 2 running backs. Haven't had them for a few weeks. We don't know about Emmett Mosley, the wide receiver transfer from Stanford. Probably not. But as Sark was asked about injuries today, he said, hey, I love the SEC availability report that comes out starting on Wednesday, because he didn't have to address it. Address it for him. So, so I think obviously he's going to be happy about getting weapons back in the backfield. So I don't think he was so caught up in what he did against Sam Houston as far as, keeping that momentum going, as much as getting some rest, a little extra time as they get set for this stretch.
You called it spot on in the first game of the season, played Ohio State, and then you said they get to hide for a few weeks there because they had 3 teams that was not going to generate a lot of national interest, and then the bye week. Is there a sense for this team to almost reintroduce themselves back to the state of college football, knowing that your casual fans and parts unknown across the United States really haven't paid attention to Texas over the last few weeks of the season? Is there an element of, hey, let's show everybody who we are again after these first 3 weeks?
No question. I mean, and again, forget Florida's record. It's Florida. It's the SEC opener. It's going to have a big audience on Saturday afternoon. It's 2 huge brands on the helmet, Texas and Florida. I will say, though, they have gotten a little attention, and it's not surprising. What was the attention? Arch's struggle against UTEP and Arch's reaction to his touchdown against Sam Houston. So all that was, kind of either with the UTEP, it was, wow, there's some concern, or with the touchdown celebration, kind of rolling their eyes. Okay, great. You ran over Sam Houston and scored a touchdown. So, yeah, the attention of those 2 moments is pretty much all it's been the last 3 weeks. So, no question, if they go down to Florida, take care of business, they're sitting at 9. Not that matters, but people notice numbers by names when the scores come up. Yes, then all of a sudden you go to Oklahoma, matchup a week from Saturday in the Cotton Bowl with a much different kind of feeling and maybe perception around the country of this team. Or if things don't go well, then people are going to go, okay, is this going to be the October slide?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you teed up this perfectly about the Oklahoma game, and I'm interested in the way that Texas will handle the Florida week with Oklahoma coming up. Do you think that they play a little bit more conservatively in the swamp and not really show their hand the way that they've had to do over these last 3 weeks, just kind of not show their hand, play more of vanilla style, or is it full throttle, full force?
The only way I could see that is if they jump on Florida and have the game in hand, but that just doesn't seem realistic on the road against a good defensive team. No, I don't think so. And the other thing is Oklahoma knows Texas. Texas knows Oklahoma. The names change, but the coordinators, Oklahoma obviously has a new offensive coordinator, so it's more so Texas figuring out Oklahoma. Will it be John Mateer? Will it be Michael Hawkins like they saw last year? But no, I think Sark is locked in on find a way to get out of Gainesville with a win and then start all over again Saturday night, Sunday morning with Oklahoma.
Speaking of Oklahoma, obviously you got a chance to watch the rivals from up north over the last few weeks. What do you make of what the Sooners are doing and kind of answering the call? But as you mentioned, John Mateer now out of that football game, and Michael Hawkins will be able to play in the Red River rivalry once again.
Well, it's funny because my first thought about Mateer was Baker Mayfield. Fiery, tough. He'll run the ball. He'll give up his body. He seems to make them go so much faster. All the things that Mayfield did. Mayfield of course, played at Texas Tech, and Texas had their way with them in Oklahoma. They split those 2 ball games, but it's the defense, guys. I mean, that was Texas went up and down the field last year and 3 years ago against Oklahoma, and even 2 years ago they went up and down the field. It's just Oklahoma did the same thing. But the way they handled Auburn, now we know Auburn has some offensive deficiencies, but that front seven for Oklahoma looks different than it has the last few years, and I'm sure that's the first thing that jumps off the tape for Sark and that Texas staff as well.
Absolutely. Roger, thank you so much for your time here on Southeast Sports Plus. I know it's going to be a really interesting matchup. What do you, last thing before we leave you, what do you make of the line? It's only a 6.5 set. It opened at 7.5, and now Texas is a 6.5 point favorite. Do you think that's just to bait more money on the Florida side or on the Texas side, or do you think that there's something to a slim line considering where these two teams are?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know what they would look at to make it move by 1 point. I don't know if it has to do with some injuries people know about. Nothing from the Texas end should surprise people on the health front. But I'm sure, 6, 7, that's still this Texas team has yet to prove itself other than playing Ohio State close. So in that regard, I think it's probably right about where it should be for a road game SEC opener. And again, I think Florida at some point will figure it out. Question is, will it be on Saturday? And how good is this Texas defense? They kept the training wheels on Julian Sayin, and he did just enough. Now we see he's pretty good quarterback, even though he's as young as he is. And the other 3 teams were just overmatched. And so we'll see as much about this Texas defense on Saturday, to me, as about Arch Manning and the offense.
Absolutely. Roger, you're the best. Thank you so much for joining us here on Southeast Sports Plus. Got a little respite last week and then now into SEC play this week. Thanks again.
Right on, guys. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Roger Wallace out of Austin, Texas, as now Florida gets into SEC play. I think this game is really interesting because we've talked about it, and Roger really nailed this on the head, the fact that everybody will bring their best against Texas. And we've seen what Florida looks like when they play well. Their record's not that great, but they have an opportunity to play really well in this football game.
I think this game is very interesting because this is going to tell us a lot about this Florida team. In my eyes, they're playing for their coach right now.
Yeah.
Are they going to come out flat because they don't like their coach, or are they going to come out guns blazing because they want Billy Napier to stay? But, I mean, you look at DJ Lagway, he's got to still have that sour taste in his mouth. The last game he played, 5 interceptions. Yeah, you can't win games in the SEC doing that. But, I think Billy Napier, this week, as ever, is your job on the line.
Absolutely. We'll see if they can get it done or if Texas can continue rolling on as they've done over the last 3 weeks as they go now into SEC play. Join us here. Keep it right here on Southeast Sports Plus. We will talk the latest AP poll and the big Alabama win over Georgia in Athens. That and so much more coming your way next. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. Alabama and Vanderbilt will be the two teams that are on the main stage of college football this upcoming week. Alabama with a huge win over Georgia in Athens. Vanderbilt, they remain undefeated in the top 20 right now. We spoke with Corey Curtis last week out of Nashville about this run here for the Vanderbilt Commodores, and you mentioned that their play in the trenches has been really where they have taken that next step. They have a celebrity quarterback. We will dive into Diego Pavia. They have a steady head coach in Clark Lee. First off, Corey, let's just talk about this start overall and where this team is right now after that big win over Utah State.
Well, look, they're not the same old Vanderbilt in the fact that this team expects to win. And I think that's, one of the main differences. When coaches talk about a culture, one of the things is creating an expectation of wins, and you guys have seen it. I've seen it. There are teams that find a way to win and teams that find a way to lose.
Yep.
And last week's a good example for Vanderbilt. They had a number of things kind of go wrong in the first half with the officiating and some calls that didn't go their way. Utah State came in averaging 38 points a game, and they put some points on the board, but they didn't even flinch. They were tied at 14-14, and the next thing you know, it's 35-20 at the half. I mean, they just kept playing and exploded and took care of business.
Absolutely. Diego Pavia has been the talk of college football since the season started. Almost a celebrity quarterback, but he's also translating it to the football field as well. Where have you seen his development from where this team started in fall camp to where they are right now?
Well, he's no longer a nice story. He
Yes.
is one of the elite quarterbacks in all of college football, and I defy you to find three quarterbacks who are playing better, because I'm not going to believe you if there are.
Right.
All right? Diego is completing 75% of his passes, 94 of 126 for 1,200 yards. He had 5 touchdown passes on Saturday. I think he was the first Vanderbilt quarterback, to do that. He also leads the team in rushing at 294 yards. He's got 2 more touchdowns there, and he's just got that juice that also elevates the team. But Clark Lee talked about it after the game. He said, everybody talks about Diego for all the obvious reasons. What gets lost is how much better he is even than a year ago. He has improved in his year at Vanderbilt. He's a much better player now, a steadier player. I mean, he makes throws that not a lot of other quarterbacks make. Either they don't have the courage to do it, or he's got the ability to pinpoint and do it. And I'm quite certain he could have made more money going somewhere else in the offseason.
Absolutely. And he kind of made his presence known last year, even really the year before that when he was at New Mexico State, beat Auburn, and then last year obviously had a great run, and now they play Alabama. I feel like last year's Alabama game was the turning point where this was not a fluke. This is not a fluke team. This is a team that is now ready to take that next step. Now that it's Alabama again, they're not going to catch anybody by surprise. Brian Williams had that comment during the offseason. They want to kill an ant with a sledgehammer.
Sure.
Probably eating those comments right now. Where is this team mentally as they go into this Alabama week, knowing that College Game Day is there and all the hype that's involved?
Well, look, they're not an ant. All right, they're not an ant anymore, and so my guess, will be unafraid going down there. They will look forward to going down there with an expectation to win. For Vanderbilt, this game is exciting for a couple of reasons. Number one, they think they can win, but number two, this is a game they got to have.
Yeah.
They want to make the college football playoff. If they lose this game, they get kicked to the curb, and people say, see, they weren't ready for prime time. They're a nice team, a nice story, but they're not ready to compete for one of those final 12 spots. They go to Alabama and win, and all of a sudden they're in all the shows, as a team that everybody's talking about that can make that final 12 playoff. So for Vanderbilt, I don't want to say this is a must-win, because there's other wins you see there that they could get. I mean, shoot, if they lose to Alabama and then win the next 3, they're still going to be in good shape. But, 10, 13, 19, and 9, I mean, that's a tough road. But if you can go 2-2 in that stretch, you're in business.
Right.
You're in business.
Right.
And there's no better way to do that than with number one. And man, I tell you, I feel for Kalen DeBoer. The number 1 scoring team in the country is?
Who's that?
It's Florida State, scoring 53 points a game.
That's right. Wow. That's right.
And now they've got Vanderbilt scoring 49 points a game. They're the number 4 scoring team in the country. And later this season, they've got Tennessee, the number 3 scoring team in the country, at 51 points a game. So that Alabama defense it has been up against it and will continue to be up against it this year.
You have handicapped these games really well as far as what Vanderbilt needs to do to be successful. You handicapped the Utah State game as it relates to this weekend in at Tuscaloosa. You're going into a hostile environment. Obviously, everybody is going to be paying attention to this matchup. What do you expect that this Vanderbilt team will need to do from an execution standpoint at Bryant? They need to be able to come away with another win.
Well, I'm going to say something that I never thought I would say. They need to beat on them for 4 quarters.
Yeah.
I mean, Vanderbilt running the football this year. We talk about Pavia a lot, but we touched on the guys in the trenches. Guys, they're averaging 6.5 yards a carry this season. They've got, I think, 18 rushing touchdowns. So they need to keep it a game going into halftime and try to wear out that Alabama defense in the 3rd and 4th quarter, like they did to South Carolina, like they did to Virginia Tech, and like they did to Utah State just last week. And so they just can't get overwhelmed early with the fever pitch that I'm sure is going to be there, not just because game day is there, but I'm sure Alabama's out for blood in this one. I mean, they're embarrassed by that loss last year. Alabama doesn't lose to Vanderbilt, okay? And so they will be ready and waiting. So you've got to survive that first wave, all right? And then you don't have to try to score 3 touchdowns in one play. You just got to keep playing. And Vanderbilt has shown they won't panic. You know, they were tied with Virginia Tech at halftime. You know, they struggled, like I said, early with Utah State for a number of reasons and then just ended up blowing their doors off. So they just have to keep their wits about them and take the game into the 4th quarter. And if they take the game into the 4th quarter and it's a 7-point game, I like number 2.
Yeah,
I just do.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk a lot about Diego Pavia, and deservingly so. And you mentioned it. He's off to a great start, both statistically and from a leadership standpoint. If there was an X factor for this team, a guy that probably nobody is talking about right now, or even to the course of the season, but if they come away with a win on Saturday, they'll all be talking about that player. Who do you think that would be?
Well, I mean, there's a couple guys on offense because we all know Eli Stowers, but Junior Sherrill's got 5 receiving touchdowns this year. And you know, Cedric Alexander's a good running back, but there's another back there named Macklin Young. He's only got 20 carries this year, but he's averaging 10.5 yards per carry. He's scoring once every 5 times he touches the football. And I guess the point I'm making is Vanderbilt doesn't have to do it with one guy.
Yeah.
They've got a line. They've got actual weapons. So it can be somebody that you don't expect. It absolutely can be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Clark Lee has been such a steady voice, such a calm poise, and from a presence standpoint, what do you think his message will be to his football team as they go in here? Because I feel like with these kind of games, you have to do almost a balancing act of being up and hyped for the moment, but also calm and steady. And I feel like they have that, their quarterback and their head coach. How do you think that he blends that message?
Well, I think you don't make the moment more than it is. It's a big game in a big environment, but they've played big games in big environments. Don't try to do too much too early. Don't just get overwhelmed with emotion when you start the football game. Play your game. You know who you are. You know you're good enough. Line up and play football. Believe in yourselves. You deserve to be here, and you're good enough.
Absolutely.
I think that's the message. He doesn't have to hype these guys up. He doesn't have to convince them that they're good enough. He just has to have them play their game. This isn't a team that commits a lot of penalties, guys.
Right.
They don't turn the football over. And if they don't commit penalties and they don't turn the football over, they're going to be in this football game. You know, winning at Alabama is really, really difficult. And I never in my life thought I would expect to see Vanderbilt go in with a chance to win in Tuscaloosa. But here I sit, a 54-year-old man, and I even saw the Cubs win the World Series. Now I see Vanderbilt with a chance to win in Tuscaloosa.
Hey, speaking as a Cubs fan, I'm hoping for another championship run. I'm wearing my Cubs t-shirt tomorrow, my Cubs hat, the same one I wore every playoff. It's been a few years since the playoffs, but no, I'm right there with you. We saw the Cubs win a championship, and who knows?
I'm so old, I'm looking for revenge from 1984.
Oh,
man, why do we have to talk about baseball? You know, I already.
Oh yeah,
I'm a Mets fan.
He's a Mets fan, so it's been a rough one.
Man, I was really hoping the Cubs could play the Mets in the playoffs. It would have been nice to eliminate those guys.
Oh yeah, yeah. Get your revenge for 2015. You know, I would have liked to go up against Gerhard. You know, that sports office would have been pretty fun.
Yeah, that would have been a madhouse this upcoming week. Stepping right outside of the SEC, I actually want to ask you two questions. One,
Sure.
not about Vanderbilt, but about Tennessee and,
Okay.
and that big game there against Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm.
What did you make there of that effort, going into Starkville, a hostile environment, and then being able to pull away with the win there in overtime?
I think Mississippi State's a little better than everybody thinks.
Absolutely.
And that was I was frankly surprised with how good they were. They got 42 new players, and they're a good football team.
Mm-hmm.
Arian Carter was everywhere. He had 17 tackles on defense. They scored 2 defensive touchdowns, and it wasn't Joey Aguilar's best day.
Right.
But
right.
when they had to have the drive and had to have the touchdown, he goes 6 for 6 and runs it in. I don't think enough is being made over how huge that moment is in a hostile environment on the road. Got to get 7 points against a good team, and Aguilar goes and does it. He's an excellent player.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I also want to talk about the big story of the day around the SEC. Obviously, the firing of Sam Pittman there at Arkansas, the first domino to fall in the SEC.
Oh, wow.
And I think your reaction says it all. When we talk to people that are in and around Arkansas, in and around the SEC, well, what do you make of this big decision and now the first vacancy in the league?
I mean, it shouldn't surprise us,
Yeah.
should it? But it's still, it's staggering. It's staggering. And it shouldn't be, because Bobby Petrino has won games.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's always what it comes down to, is winning and losing football games. And so regardless of whatever baggage somebody may or may not have, but it just goes to show you how important winning is.
Yeah.
That they're willing to – I mean, this is really one of the most embarrassing marks in Arkansas football history when he had his incident and got let go from the program. And you're so desperate to win, you're saying – come back. What are the T-shirts saying, "Let's ride again"?
Yeah, oh God, I haven't seen that. That's hilarious, though.
It's just, wow. That's better than the T-shirts that I'm seeing in Nashville today. I can't even say what they say.
Oh goodness! Well, wait, about Vandy or about the Titans?
Oh, about the Titans. They're quoting Cam Ward.
Okay.
I did see that.
I can pencil that together. I can pencil
Just
that
2
together.
words.
Yep.
I love it. I love it. All right, score predicts for Saturday. Do you do those?
Sure, why not?
Let's do it. I love it.
Hey, what's the betting line? Do we know?
Let me pull that up, because
I'm going to guess
10
it's going to
and a
be Alabama by 3.5.
I think it's 10.5.
half. I think it's 10 and a half.
10 and a half?
10 and a half. Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
No. Yeah, Bama's 10
Oh
and a half.
my gosh, I would take that all day.
Ooh, take all those
all
points.
day.
Yeah.
I'll say Vanderbilt 38-35.
Ooh, okay.
He
All
thinks
right.
Vanderbilt's going to win again.
He's-
Corey, you made a good comment earlier about never thinking that Vanderbilt would be able to go into Tuscaloosa and win. I think I made a comment earlier about it being so weird seeing Vanderbilt, or it will be weird seeing Vanderbilt on the set of College Game Day.
Yeah.
Like the helmet.
with the helmet on there on
Yeah.
the set.
Too bad Lee Corso won't be there to wear the Commodore fedora.
I know. I know.
And that would be something. It is amazing. Did you guys watch the SEC shorts?
Yes, yeah.
And they had a great one today where they were turning in their L's, and the secretary who was handing them out looked at a picture on where it ended, and it was the Commodore guy, and she was just like, "I miss him." He hasn't been there. He hasn't been there all year. They're 5-0. They're 5-0.
I haven't seen that one yet, but I'll have to go check that out. Those guys are so creative over there. They do a good job.
Great. They're great.
They turn those skits around really, really well. Corey, thank you so much for joining us. You nailed it last week. We'll see if you'll nail it this week with a 3-point win.
I'm not foolish. Kalen DeBoer is an excellent football coach.
Absolutely.
He has won everywhere he's been, and he has a really tough job at Alabama in following up an icon is very difficult. And I mean, he knows his X's and O's. He knows how to coach. It's getting everybody to follow you and everybody to pull in the same direction. And, sometimes that can take a few recruiting cycles to get all your guys believing in you. And we'll see if they crossed a hurdle last week, but they crossed that hurdle last year before they played the Commodores and they knocked off Georgia.
That's true. That's true.
We'll see.
We'll see if they can be giant killers once again. They're giants.
They're the Giants now. What are you talking about? There's one undefeated team in this game.
I had giant killers, comma, but they're the Giants themselves as well. It's a battle of titans, a battle of real titans there.
Don't say that. The Titans never win.
Corey, you're the best, man. We certainly appreciate it. Thanks for your time today.
Yeah.
Always entertaining, always great. Corey Curtis there.
Don't say the Titans.
You know, they got the Preds coming up in just a little bit.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt's on fire right now.
That Steven Stamkos contract looks real nice right now.
Yeah, it does.
Go Bolts.
It does. We'll see if they can get it done there in T-Town as Coach Saban and the crew from College Game Day will have the Vanderbilt helmet on the set as they go to play Alabama. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, one of the voices of the SEC might be making a run to Washington, D.C. We'll connect the dots next. And welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus here. We're going to take a bit of a sports and political turn here on our program. Great to be joined by Peter Albrecht, the news anchor right here at WKRG. First of all, news has kind of broken over the last few hours that Paul Feinbaum, the host of the SEC Network, he's got his own radio show, has been in Alabama for a long time, is thinking about running for the United States Senate in the seat that's now vacated because Tommy Tuberville is running for governor of the state of Alabama. Number one, how did this land for you, and what do you make of these political figures going in, or sports figures going into politics?
Yeah, kind of out of left field, I thought. And he said on this podcast that he was kind of inspired by the assassination of Charlie Kirk. It got him to thinking and contemplating a lot of stuff. He's always been a Republican and a conservative guy, so he says now he's thinking about it. He's got to make a decision pretty quickly.
Yeah.
January is qualifying, and the primary, which in the state of Alabama is the election, de facto, takes place in May. So it's not a lot of time. If he's going to do it, he needs to do it quickly.
Absolutely. We talked about Tommy Tuberville and his run to that Senate seat, and then now he's going to take over as the governor. What do you think from a political standpoint will Paul Feinbaum's next move have to be? Because obviously he has a very high-profile job. He can't do these two things at once, try to run for that seat and his job right at the SEC Network.
Yeah, it's a curious deal, and even if he waits till football season is over again, that's kind of pushing it. Tuberville got in. I think maybe that's opened the eyes of a lot of different sports figures. Bruce Pearl thought about it very seriously.
Yeah.
From what we're led to believe, he said he decided against it. So I think, Tuberville getting in kind of opened up that concept. And then, of course, the Trump administration is full of media people. And so, I'm not sure if Feinbaum has a relationship with the president, because whoever the president endorses is going to win that race, no matter the money or what else. But there's a couple other strong candidates in the race. Steve Marshall, the attorney general for 8 years in the state. And also Barry Moore, who's a congressman who now represents part of our area here in
That's
Mobile,
right.
Baldwin County, on over to the Wiregrass. He's been in Congress for about 6 years, but he's a very conservative guy. He's in the Freedom Caucus in the U.S. House. So if you're looking for a super conservative, he would be that person. And in a primary, that's who's voting. In a
Right.
Republican primary, typically are very conservative voters.
Absolutely. Paul Feinbaum made mention of this on Outkick the Coverage on Trey Clavis, or Travis. What's his name? Clay Travis. Clay Travis from Outkick the Coverage. He was on his show. He was very vague, Pete, about who basically talked him into this, or maybe said, "Hey, put a bug in his ear." Who do you think it might have been that said? He said somebody that's kind of high up in Alabama government, and is somebody that you think that maybe that is aligned with the Trump administration that told him, "Hey, think about this."
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, his name recognition would be off the charts. People might know, even people who are in Republican circles probably know Steve Marshall, but they probably don't have strong feelings one way or the other about him. Barry Moore, he is in Congress, but if you don't live in his congressional district, if you live in one of the other 5 in Alabama that he hasn't represented, you might not really know much about him.
Yeah.
So there's a name recognition is worth a lot. But even with the name recognition, if Trump stays out of an endorsement, you need a lot of money to run a U.S. Senate race.
What is that from a political standpoint? How much money will need to be raised in order to win these kind of things?
They say in an open seat, to win an open seat, typically what's been raised and spent is $32 million.
Wow.
Now, you think about that nationwide, a lot of that might be in districts where you not only have to run in a primary, then you have to run in a general election against the other party. Here in Alabama, really not so much. If you win next May, if you're a Republican, barring just some sort of scandal like we saw with Judge Roy Moore back in the 2017 election with Doug Jones, the Republicans going to win that.
Right.
So let's cut that in half. That's $16 million. You know, and can you raise $16 million between now and May? I don't know if you can.
This is going to be really, really hard. Political figures or sports figures stepping into politics is not anything new. Tom Osborne, the great coach there at Nebraska, did it. Bill Bradley has done it as well.
Jack Kemp back from the AFL football days. So.
From a guy from your perspective, and you've been in sports and you've been in news for a long time, this Venn diagram of sports figures going into politics, why does it seem to work as well as it does? And do you see this kind of in that same vein?
You know, I think they're celebrities first and foremost, and we're a celebrity-obsessed culture in this country, no doubt about it. I think people, you know, who are around athletics are competitive. They want to win, you know, if they've been coaches or players, and they see that as another arena maybe to get into. I don't know.
Yeah.
One question I'd ask about Paul Feinbaum, and you might know more than I would or have some thoughts about it, is he's very well known, but is he very well liked? Those are two different things.
That's true.
And you might listen to Feinbaum, might be very popular, but that doesn't necessarily mean you like him if you listen to him every day. I don't know.
That's exactly right. That's a really good point, though, too, because he's been such a polarizing figure on the radio.
Right.
I wonder if that will continue to the ballot box if he still has this split vote there.
Well, right. Well, part of the personality, you know, you get people to listen to you on the radio is to kind of go on the edge and aggravate people and that kind of thing. So, again, we'll have to see how it plays out.
For those that don't necessarily keep up with politics day to day, what would his role be as far as being able to fill that Senate seat in a way that is actually reflective of what that job is? For example, for Tommy Tuberville, I think if you ask your random people on the street, you know, what all has he done? I don't know if many people would know, you know, day to day or kind of job to job what he's been able to do. What are some of the nuts and bolts things that he'll have to do if he does get that seat?
It just seems like, you know, in the last couple of years, it's follow the leader, right?
Yeah.
Follow the trail left by President Trump. That Tommy Tuberville certainly has been faithful to that, and I'm assuming that you know, anybody who wants to run and win would need to follow that path as well.
Absolutely. Certainly an eyebrow-raising headline there as SEC Network host Paul Feinbaum considering, still not official, considering a run for United States Senate seat held by former Auburn head coach Tommy Tuberville. Pete, thank you so much for your insight.
You're welcome.
Join us, keep right here on Southeast Sports Plus. We'll talk a little bit more Alabama's big win over Georgia, as well as the Ryder Cup. United States this close to coming up with a big win. Stay with us.
Welcome in, everybody. Southeast Sports Plus on this Thursday afternoon. And one of the biggest topics in college athletics right now has been name, image, and likeness. And things took a massive turn, not only when it comes to some federal regulations, but some decisions that are certainly going to impact student-athlete NIL all throughout the country, including in the SEC. Welcome in, everybody. Simone, Eli, Gerhard, Mathangani, Patrick Walsh joining you this afternoon. Guys, I'm so happy to be back.
Welcome
it's been
back.
a few days
Welcome
without
back,
you guys,
fam.
holding it down, killing it, loving it. How's the week been, guys?
It's been good. It's been really
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
I mean, we had a number one, a lot of great guests.
Yes.
But two, we're sitting in a really pivotal spot in the Major League Baseball playoffs.
Oh.
And so
can't wait to talk about that.
The Cubbies are 1-1 right now.
Hey, where's your shirt? Where's your shirt? 'Cause
where's
I saw
the
that you
shirt
had
go?
it.
Well,
Where is it?
the good thing is that Major League Baseball pushed all the start times back. The last 2 days we've been on right as the show came on. Today the game will start at 4 o'clock when Central Time.
Yes.
When the show is over, so I can go all
You can
eyes
get completely dialed in.
The baseball gods were looking
Patrick,
at.
a quick Mets update on their playoff run.
Yep.
Hey,
so
great,
that
guys.
was,
So back to NIL. Listen,
So mean-spirited.
I just have to. And quite frankly, it's kind of like my pseudo team because I did go watch them at least win one game
And
when
got on
I
the
was in New
Jumbotron.
York City. I know. You know what? I did. That was me. I was very, very proud of that moment. One of the better moments of my career, no question. Guys, listen, lots to get to as we roll right along in the college football season. And name, image, and likeness, Gerhard. I remember sitting at my desk a few years ago. Good God, a few years ago. And I remember when the first news of, hey, we're going to pay student athletes. I think it was DeSantis there in Florida said, we're going to pay athletes. It's kind of started to trickle out from different parts of the country. And everyone said, okay, we've got to do this. And we knew at that point there was going to be very little regulation. There were not going to be a lot of rules. The NCAA had tried to avoid something for so long that it was going to become out of control.
Right.
Now, it's out of control. And now the NCAA is looking to do what they can to get things back put together, put the toothpaste back in the tube, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think because it's so multi-pronged, what you're seeing some open doors, then closed doors.
Yes.
Some open doors, then closed doors.
Yep.
And what affects the small affects the large and vice versa as well. So we're talking about institutions in the way that they're able to handle their money and pay athletes directly.
Yes.
Now we're also talking about companies and individual student athletes. So like what affects the one affects the whole. And I do think it's one problem. It's like one of those things where, like, if you heard the quote, like, the rising tide lifts all boats situation.
Sure.
This is not really that
No, it's
because
not.
one rising tide is here and some other boats are down here
Yes.
and vice versa. And sometimes it affects big time and sometimes small. But one of the first major dominoes as far as the overall NIL collective company we're seeing shutting its doors.
Yeah, let's talk about what the news is that came out just a couple of hours ago. And that is that one of the biggest third-party NIL collectives. And so let's be very specific about what that is. There are these companies that take money from donors, from whoever, whatever, and they help facilitate these contracts with companies, between companies and student athletes, right? So they find such and such company and they find such and such athlete and they marry the two together. It's like an agent, so to speak.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And so these agencies are going to get shut out, and we're seeing that more and more. Part of it is coming on the heels of some new NCAA bylaws that are going to kind of take hold of what the NIL rulings are. So that's a really, really important note. What's happening now is that the NCAA is saying two things. One, that companies, whatever it is that they agree to pay an athlete, if that company does not follow through, schools can no longer make up the difference. Okay, so if Nike is going to pay me $1 million, and then Nike only pays me $500,000 for whatever reason, that Bowling Green State University, where I went to school and played basketball, all-star, all this stuff, right, is going to make up the other $500,000. The NCAA, that's the first prong of this. The NCAA says no longer are schools going to be allowed to guarantee that NIL money.
Well, we saw so many issues of this, and I forget the athlete that was at Florida, the quarterback that was at Florida, who got a deal and then got that deal rescinded. Jalen something, I believe, but we'll get his name.
That was a wreck.
But he was one case study in the sense of like, hey, a deal was set and then somewhat agreed on, and then now the school and trying to find other money to help out. But you're right. I think what this does is cut out a really fat middleman, and I'm not objectifying it, but like what ended up happening because there was such chaos. there was a whole different lane of economy that was just literally created out of thin air.
Yep.
And corporations like this and others were trying to get in on the middle side of that. Make no mistake about it. The student athlete NIL, it was not just some like altruistic thing. It was to make money. It was to make some profit. So, for example, let's just say they're making 30 cents on every dollar for the kid that they represented.
Sure.
Well, they were still making money on that. So, and obviously this student athlete NIL has gone down.
Yeah.
But if you read more into it, they were looking to get into a merger with Blueprint Sports. And that merger failed. And I wonder if a lot of that failure was because of this new House settlement and then basically effectively cutting these people out.
I think it has to. I'm going to talk about my conversation with Greg Byrne back during the Final Four. I asked him, and this was before the House settlement was really settled. It wasn't agreed on.
Right,
it was still in the courts. We didn't know where it was going to go. It was getting voted on that week, actually. There in the Final Four, it got delayed. It happened a bunch later, and then it's going to really come into attack next fall. And so what it says is that universities can spend $20.5 million on their student athletes. So that is all that schools can directly pay their student athletes. So they have to take $20.5 million and divide it upon all of their programs.
Right.
So what I understand is that about $18 million for schools that care about bringing in students and revenue and things are going to put that towards football. So $18 million out of 20.5 is going to go towards football.
Right.
Okay. So, and I asked him. I said to Greg Byrne, okay, so that solves like one problem. They're gonna kind of stronghold how much schools can pay student athletes. How do you get rid of the collectives? To which he said, we feel strongly that's going to take care of itself. The business model doesn't work because here's the deal.
Yeah.
Schools don't just have $20.5 million lying around.
Right.
So these people that have money are going to donate directly to how they can impact their student athletes. They're going to donate to the schools give the money to the student athletes. So we're going to see that middleman, we're going to see that fade away. The other part of the NCAA's rulings today say that collective and booster deals must include specific direct activation. What that means is that I can't give you money if you don't do anything.
Right.
If you don't do something to actually, wear my product, if you aren't doing something that is of value, something that is tangible,
it can't be a no-show job.
You can't make money.
Yeah, it can't be a no-show job, and it has to be able to effectively bargain help everybody. So, but for example, let's just say that I own a company that does let's say I sell cameras, for example.
Sure.
Do I have to have photography of you using my camera in your work, or you show me photography in your work? Where does that extend and how far does that go? And at the same time, if we take this all the way back to where all of NIL started, this is where it started. It started where people can make money off going to camps and make money off of selling Milo's tea or whatever, or doing whatever the
first
case
ones
is.
that came out. I remember that. Bo Nixon
Bo
on
Nixon,
that.
a few others, Bryce Young maybe.
Yeah.
And so this does go back to where it just can't be some fat cat that made a lot of money in real estate or in some other product selling whatever venture, and he's just like, I like my team X, and let me go pay quarterback Y $10 million for absolutely nothing.
Correct.
It is going to derail that. And how that is enforced to me is going to be really interesting.
And okay, so here's the thing. So Dan Murphy of ESPN is the one that actually put this information out. He got some inside scoop regarding the NCAA ruling today, and just clarification on what the second rule that we just mentioned is actually addressing. They call it warehousing, where a collective pays for a player's NIL rights with the promise of them to use them later, but no specific endorsement actually in mind. So just again, no show jobs like you mentioned. So what I think is really, really funny about this is sometimes to understand a story, you have to go look to see who is one of the loudest people complaining about it. Because I think sometimes if you're trying to figure out if what's being done by the NCAA or what's being done by anybody is who is complaining about it the most.
Right.
So if you're trying to figure out if what the NCAA is doing is right or if it's the right thing for student athletes, look no further than who's complaining, which is the biggest booster for Texas Tech.
Yes.
He is out here and he is shouting from the rooftops about how this is the worst thing that has ever happened and how it is just not. And this guy has single-handedly bankrolled every single one of Texas Tech's entire programs. I mean, softball, look no further than that. And their all-star $1 million pitcher, hitter, or this woman who just absolutely killed it. She was great. She's probably worth the money. My point is, there's a reason the NCAA is putting these rules in place, and it's not just because they woke up on a Thursday and said, let's do this.
There was a deal tied right to a player that's from this area. Lee Hunter bypassed the NFL Because and in the NFL, he probably would have been a third or fourth, fifth round pick, but he got a guaranteed close to $2 million to go to Texas Tech and to be on their defensive line. You think about St. John's. St. John's had the guy that had vitamin water, a billionaire.
Sure.
He ended up saying, hey, I want to buy a roster. Went to Rick Pitino. Who do you want? Got 6 guys, and that team ended up in, what, the Sweet 16,
You're
the
right.
Elite 8?
I mean,
But here, I'll put the shoe on the other foot, though, Simone. Let's just say I win the Powerball. I have made no bones about it. If I win the Powerball, my favorite school is getting paid. It's getting paid.
who exactly is your favorite school?
I'm not going to say it on this program, but I will say my favorite school, the school that I root
Can
for,
you buy the Cubs a World Series, and or can you buy the Patriots back into
your favorite school
success?
on this program before. Why are you scared to say it now?
I grew
Put
up.
it on him, Patrick.
Yeah,
Put it on him,
come
bro.
on, man.
I grew up an Auburn fan. I have now
Listen,
realized.
Auburn's not hurting for money. They're just hurting for things to actually go well. That's all.
And I went to Jacksonville State. So Jacksonville State and Auburn get paid.
You know what? If anyone sees it, just a private donor. All I know is if I am on a beach somewhere with a martini and Auburn is Richard, just know Gerhard hit the jackpot because we both got paid. I'm his best friend and that's his favorite team.
But now I would have done a no-show job, and now that's not available. And now I have to make them work.
Just
now.
you know what? Patrick and I will just take whatever it was that you were going to put on the planes and not worry about that. Give it us. Give it to us.
Give it to us. We need the money.
Anyways, all that to say, the NCAA is certainly putting their best effort forth in trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube as it relates to name, image, and likeness, student athletes being paid. And look, make no mistake about it, the NCAA, whatever that they expect to be paying to sit in court, that will be tripled because there are going to be more, you name it, antitrust, that, yada, yada, all this in the courts over the next several years, now more than ever, because of how much it went one direction, how much they're going to try to pull that back into real things and just have some sort of regulation.
They're paying for the sins from decades before.
Yeah.
Right now, in real time.
Yeah.
And they will be doing so, I would think, for probably the better part of the next decade.
Yeah, no question about that. Guys, we have a stacked show over the next hour, 45 minutes. Patrick, take a look at some of the guests that we're going to have across Next Star Nation today. Looking forward to this. Going to check in just a bit with our girl Camden Morris joining the show from Jackson, Mississippi. Then we're going to head up to Columbus, Georgia. Hear from the sports director at WRBL, Jack Patterson. Holden Cruzmark holding it down in Oklahoma City to talk about the Sooners. And then just a little bit south there from Oklahoma, we're going to check in with our guy Noah Gross from Austin, Texas. So a talented group all across Next Star Nation. Excited to have them on the program here over the next hour and 45 minutes or so on Southeast Sports Plus. For Patrick, Gerhard, I'm Simone. Stay with us. The show returns in 2.5 minutes.
Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus here, continuing on with hour number 2. We almost had a whole show in the break with our good friend Courtney Mims. Courtney, one of the big things that we have talked about over the last, I would say, few weeks as it relates to this Arkansas football program is not only the toughness and competitiveness, but what this team would look like on the field. Now, of course, we have seen everything laid out. Sam Pittman is now gone. Bobby Petrino is now the new head coach. When the news landed initially for you, how did it land, and what have been your takeaways since that Sunday afternoon news came out?
Yeah, so we were hearing rumblings on Saturday night. Of course, when you watched what they did against Notre Dame, that was embarrassing, quite frankly. I mean, you had guys on the defensive side of the ball just giving up. They were jogging. They were giving up on plays. I mean, some of Notre Dame's touchdowns, if you go back and watch that game, and I don't recommend you go back and watch it because it is pretty sad when you go back and watch it if you're an Arkansas fan. But if you go back and watch that game, you can watch some of Notre Dame's touchdowns where guys on the defense were just letting guys by, like letting offensive players right by them. It was like there was no effort, there was no energy, there was nothing. They just weren't giving anything on the field. And so that's kind of where that was the straw that broke the camel's back, right? And we all knew it. We all knew it. I tweeted out, I said, I don't know how you can keep Sam Pittman after that performance, because when you look at what Vegas was predicting going into that game, and the line was moving closer and closer in Arkansas's favor, right? You know, it was 4.5 for Notre Dame, then 4 points, and I believe it even got to 3.5 here in Arkansas. And so you saw the line moving, and people were betting Arkansas. And then you go out and have that performance where you give up 42 points in the first half. What?
No, 42 points or like 30 points in 8 minutes.
In the first,
I mean, and there was, they gave up 420 yards of total offense in the first half. That is a record, and it's just insane. I mean, 42 points in the first half was also the first time they had done that at Razorback Stadium since like the 80s. Or the 70s. Sorry, the 70s. Excuse me.
Right.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, it was embarrassing. And so you knew it was coming. You knew that was going to happen. And so we were all hearing, be ready, tomorrow noon, it's happening. Okay, so you're getting ready. You're like, okay, tomorrow noon, something's happening. And so when we heard that he was being let go, it wasn't a shock to us. I think what was more of a shock to me is that they actually decided to make Bobby interim, right? Because there was some talk that maybe he wouldn't be interim head coach, and maybe, they would make somebody else head coach, or if for the interim for the time being, maybe their special teams coordinator, Scott Fountain, as he was the assistant to the head coach, maybe he's the interim. But it was the logical thing to do, in my opinion. I just know that some people were discussing whether or not he could do that. The other thing that kind of shocked me, I knew Travis Williams was going to be fired because I was told that as well on Saturday night. Did not think he was going to do cleaning house kind of on the defensive staff, where he got rid of also the co-defensive coordinator, Marcus Woodson, and defensive line coach Deke Adams. The only coach left was the secondaries coach. And he just got here, Nick Perry.
No doubt. It's honestly been an interesting thing, because you don't, like you said, you see some clearing house, but you usually don't see this. This looked to me like a move of a guy who thinks he can be the next head coach and trying to leverage his pieces in order to be the next head coach. But one of the conversations that you and I just had during the break about Bobby Petrino is that, as much as people on the outside might think this is an audition, it doesn't sound like it is from your perspective.
Yeah, and only because I've heard from my sources specifically, and they have kind of said, look, here's where we're at with Bobby. Yes, we're going to interview him, of course, right? He is the interim. We're going to put him in the mix, right? But we're going to look at other people before we get to him. And the reason being, I think some of it is coupled with the past. Unfortunately, you can't change what happened at Arkansas when he was here before. I think all of that drama and the motorcycle incident has left a bad taste in some people's mouths still. I mean, I get it. Some people have moved on. I totally understand that. But there's some people who, the higher ups, when he was brought back to be the OC, there were some concerns. And the way that those concerns were calmed down was, he's not going to be the head coach. He's not in a position of power. He's just the OC. So let him come back. Well, now you're going to have to bring those conversations up again. And so, yes, I think there's some of that. I think there's also some of Well, there's this divide right now amongst the offense and the defense. You had defensive players posting thumbs down to all the decisions he was making when it comes to those defensive coaches. There was a lot of defensive players and ones who are not just, third string guys who are starters who are very upset over the move. And I know Cam Ball, for one, was tearing up on a live stream. He just wasn't happy about it. And so you had a lot of division between the offense and the defense, with the offense obviously coming behind Bobby Petrino and saying, great, we're going to rally behind him. And the defense kind of going, I don't know how we feel about this. You've also seen all of the decommits they've had as well because of what he decided to do. And that's going to be natural. You're going to get decommits when you have a coaching change, but it signals to me you're not giving Bobby a chance, right? It signals to me that you don't even care that he could possibly be the head coach. And there's some, there's some boosters that are kind of like, hey, we get it. If Bobby's our last option, okay, but let's go out and try for other people first. And so what I've heard is that he's pretty far down on the list. No offense to Bobby.
Okay, so this is interesting. And before we spin it forward to the possible candidates, I have one more Bobby Petrino question for you, because you nailed it perfectly. The offense seems to be supporting him, and the defense, obviously, with their play on the field was embarrassing enough. And then now they have a rift with their interim head coach. It seems like, hell is broken loose over there in Fayetteville. But specifically to the offense, I think that obviously Bobby Petrino is one of the brightest minds that we've seen in college football over the last 20 years. Arkansas is probably one of maybe the top 10 most talented quarterbacks in all of college football. Do you expect to see this offense continue to look really good moving forward? The Notre Dame game notwithstanding, but do you expect to see another boost for this offense with Green at quarterback?
Yeah, well, you said it. They haven't looked very good over the last 6 quarters of play, right? And that really goes back to the second half of the Memphis game. And then, obviously, against Notre Dame, your only touchdown is scored by your big man, one of your big offensive linemen, and Shaq McCroy. What? That's the only touchdown? I mean, again, I get it. Taylor Green is so when he is on, right? He is so good when he is confident, when he is calm, cool, and collected out there. I think Notre Dame rattled them early, and that's where he kind of went, whoa, okay, what is going on here? And I think you kind of lost the whole team at that point, which is why it's good that there's a change. So, yes, I think Bobby, one, is making these defensive changes because, hey, the defense has been the weak side of the ball since the get-go, since the jump. I talked about that with you guys before we went into the Ole Miss game or after the Ole Miss game. Can't remember, but I've talked about it a lot that I just didn't feel confident in this defense. Well, now I'm kind of wondering, Bobby, look, you're interim head coach, but you are also still in charge of this offense. He promoted their running backs coach, Colby Smith, to interim offensive coordinator, but he's still doing the play calling. So it's still on him what the offensive product looks like there out on the field, not this Saturday, but the next upcoming Saturday and for the last 7 games, right? And so I think, yes, I think the offense can be good like we've seen, but at the same time, Bobby, that's on you, man.
Yeah.
You've got to now figure out how to bring this team together as one, get them to play as one, get the defense to play for you. Although I don't even think they were playing for Travis Williams. Let's be honest. They weren't really playing for anybody. But get the defense to play for you and bring this all together. But the offense hasn't impressed me over the last 6 quarters. So I'm going to say this right now. Prove to me you can do this, right, Bobby? I'd love nothing more than Bobby Petrino to go out there and start winning some ball games and people go, wait a second, do we really want our first option or do we want Bobby? I don't know, but you're exactly right, Gerhard. I think we can see this team be better offensively because we have seen it. Bobby's just got to do that right now, and it all goes to mindset.
Yeah.
You have a change.
Yep.
You have a good mindset. So show us.
Mindset and effort, 2 big things from last Saturday. We got a chance to hear from the Razorbacks AD, Hunter Yurachek, on that.
Well, I mean, we have one of the most passionate fan bases in all of college athletics, as demonstrated by what we saw Saturday at 11 a.m. as they showed up. And you see that across all of our sports. And so I hope our fans will come out and give these kids 100% support. And I hope in return, the kids that you see on the field will give 100% maximum effort and show that energy. And I think this is a state that, boy, if they see that team playing really hard and carrying some of the characteristics that Coach is talking about, they'll get behind him, win, lose, or draw. But they want to see that effort. I know our fans want to see that effort on the field. And I think that was something that was really glaring Saturday, that there was not a great deal of effort. And I think you'll see that change as we move forward.
So the Saturday game against Notre Dame now in the rearview mirror. Of course, looking ahead now to Tennessee, there is a gap week in between a nice bye week and time to settle things out. So now I'm going to ask you the question I know that you've been posed a million times there in Little Rock. Who's next and what's next for this Arkansas football program? Because now we do have 4 Power 4 jobs, one in each conference that is now available. If you start ranking them, I would think that Arkansas is at the top or near the top of all of them, and it will attract a lot of great candidates. What say you about the next head coach of the Razorbacks?
Yeah, well, I'll say this, Gerhard. I'll say this. Arkansas did a good thing by getting rid of Sam Pittman over the first bye week, right? Because now, like you said, they're probably the top job out there. And so they have gotten a lot of interest. I will say this. My sources, we actually talked to I'll say this. We talked to a Board of Trustees member today. I'm going to air that interview in one of our shows for anybody interested. But one of the Board of Trustees members telling me today that they have received so many calls about the job, that Hunter Yurchek's phone has been blowing up. And I don't think they would lie about that, because we've heard that from our sources as well, that so many people have reached out. So many agents have been reaching out to him. Now, I can tell you this. They've also turned down quite a few names for the job. So they've turned down some people already for this position, because they are very specific in what they want. And what they want is somebody who has been a head coach. No Sam Pittmans, okay? You want to have somebody with head coaching experience, all right? No offensive line coaches that are like, we're going to see how it goes with you as a head coach. Let's see how it goes. No more of that, guys. No more of that. Okay, so someone who's a proven head coach, someone who's a proven winner, right? Who has taken a program and built it and made it into a winner very quickly, all right? And so you'll see from when I bring up the top 3 names, well, the top 3 names have done that. The top 3 names have those qualities, and somebody that's going to re-energize this program. That's a word we're hearing, re-energize, because we were going into year 6 under Pittman, and I'm telling you right now, nobody thought it was flashy. Nobody thought it was let's get out another old cold beer, and I say that. I love Sam Pittman, I do, but I feel like people were like, all right, okay, let's do this for another year, and so I don't know if I can bring up the 3 names that I'm hearing, the top 3 candidates.
Of course, speculate. Well, I mean,
I can bring those up,
you can do those off the record. Yeah, for sure.
No, I can bring them up on the show.
Beautiful.
It's
hey,
fine.
Let's do it.
I can. So my, all sources are pointing to, there is one guy that everybody wants, and the fan base wants him. The boosters want him. This is a guy who has a lot of support, and that is SMU head football coach Rhett Lashley, okay? Yeah. You have heard his name probably at every coaching search. That's because, let me tell you, it starts with number 1 get, Rhett Lashley, everybody else. Everybody else. It's like he is the person that they are targeting so much right now, and for good reason, too. The fans love him because, hey, there is nothing better than having somebody who understands what it means to be a Razorback, be your head coach, right? And so he was a former quarterback at the University of Arkansas. Not only that, he's from Arkansas, Springdale native, from NWA, man, got ties here, got family members here. So look, there is a lot of support for him right now. I'll say this, some big boosters even throwing their support behind him, going, you know what? We will get a package together for this guy. SMU, I get it. You're from money, but we are going to try and play with the big boys. We are going to put together a nice NIL package for him. We are going to basically make it so hard for him to say no, right? And so he's your top pick. If for some reason Brett Lashley says no. If for some reason, because you guys know how this works, coaching searches are always strange and things happen. The next name, their number 2 option, right? How it was described to me is like 1A, 1B, right? Because they wouldn't be sad about this option. It just wouldn't be their first option. Is Tulane head football coach John Sumrall.
Understandable.
And he's going to show up in every single coaching search right now. I mean, who doesn't want to hire this guy? And what he's been able to do at Tulane, what he's been able to do at Troy. You want to talk about a guy who's proven that he can build a program.
That's true.
It's this guy.
Yeah.
So he's your second option, and he has, as sources have confirmed to me, his agents have reached out. There have been conversations there. And so there is interest. So do you get to your second name, right? Does Rhett turn down the job? Do you get to your second name? I don't think they get past those 2 names. But if they do, for some reason, because coaching searches are weird and somebody's going to go coordinator, something weird is going to happen and they're going to get to their third name. I don't think they'll get past this guy, is Dan Mullen. And so Dan Mullen has reached out. His people have reached out. He is very interested in the job. My sources tell me that he is very interested and that he'd love to be coaching at Arkansas. And this is a guy that I will say, guys, full disclosure, I'm a UF alum, okay? So I covered Dan Mullen.
That's true.
I know him very well. Good guy. And I think they were very quick to fire him there. The fan base also thinks they're very quick to fire him there. And I know the narrative is that, he can't recruit and whatever, he's a great coach, but he can't recruit. To that I say, just put a staff around him, give him the resources. Dan Mullen with resources? Scary. Look at what he was able to do at Mississippi State. Look at what he was able to do at Florida before they quickly got rid of him for, whatever. The rumor mill says that he ticked off some people, and I get it. If you ticked off some people, Dan, I get it, okay? But now he's over at UNLV. He's got them rolling. That man does more with less continually over his career. So that's your top 3. Right there. And I know people want to throw in John Gruden. I get it. Brett Favre tweeted his support to him the other night. I'll tell you this. I don't think John Gruden to Arkansas is happening. I think he is, while he might be very interested, he is also very low on the list. And, from different reasons of people saying, how is he going to work in the NIL era? What is he, he's just a guy that he's a high risk, high reward, right? It's like, is he a guy that's going to work out? And they just want someone that they know is going to work out. They don't want to take a gamble on anybody right now.
And I don't think flashing a Super Bowl ring works anymore. Just look at Bill Belichick over in there in North Carolina. I just don't think that rolling out a national championship or a Super Bowl will get the job done. Very, very, very good insight. And obviously you said that you were talking to that Board of Trustees member. I'm sure that's all going to be online. So we'll have the latest on the Arkansas coaching search as time moves forward. Courtney, Mims, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And hey, I'm sure we'll be on talking more drama with the Hogs at some point, okay? I'm sure.
Certainly will. We certainly will. We have just scratched the surface there on the search for a new head coach there in Fayetteville. Courtney Mims, thankful for her time today here on Southeast Sports Plus. Coming up next on our show, we head up north. A couple of SEC pitchers now playing in the postseason. We'll have that and more next. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. It is a Taco Tuesday. Alabama picked up another big win, this time in Athens, breaking a long winning streak for the Bulldogs there between the hedges. 33 straight wins until the Crimson Tide rolled into town. 24-21, the final score. It was a statement win. I am in a different apparel today, and proudly so. The Chicago Cubs playing playoff baseball for the first time since 2020. I'm over here unapologetically rooting for my Cubs. Patrick, I know baseball is kind of a hard thing to talk about with you and I because we felt so good in the summer.
Yeah.
We felt so good.
You know,
our team was rolling, my team was rolling, and your team fell just out of it.
You know, I was feeling good up until June 12th.
Yeah.
And then the rails started to literally fall off for the beloved New York Metropolitans. But we'll get into that later. I won't crash out over it, but I will have some ranting to do, so to speak.
It's understandable. It really is. It's understandable. But to me, there's nothing like playoff baseball.
No.
But one thing I will say, though, and we'll dive into college football, we'll dive into the SEC after this, but I love afternoon baseball, especially playoff baseball in the afternoon, and I love the aesthetic of it, just being able to pass by a monitor and watch baseball on your TV in the afternoon. It just feels awesome. I hate my team playing in the afternoon. The Cubs are set to have their first pitch in just a little bit, so I'll have like a half an eye there on the football, on the basketball, the baseball game, and then talking football. But no, I really love it. This is a really interesting time though too, because there's a lot of former SEC stars that are playing right now in postseason baseball. Yeah,
I mean Alex Bregman, the star for LSU back in the day, he's going to be taking on the Yankees later, and we'll get our predictions on it later. But honestly, you make a good point about afternoon baseball because it reminds me of the round of 64 in March Madness.
Absolutely.
When it's like right in the middle of the afternoon.
Yep.
You've got games left and right. Now we're starting to get a little bit of an overlap with the Tigers-Guardians game starting at noon Central. Now the Cubs game is going to start here in just a couple of minutes. So, you know, you get that little bit of overlap. But honestly, I'm going to take my bias of being a former baseball player out of it. I personally think playoff baseball is the best playoff professional sport of any.
Okay.
I'll keep it at professional because you can't go into college and not say March Madness is the best.
Right. I think, as far as the intrigue and the interest go, I think March Madness is right there up there. I really like, when you and I have talked about this before off the air, that I really like playoff hockey as well.
Yes.
It's one of those things where I don't necessarily watch game to game. I'm not watching, Stars Rangers on a Tuesday night in January, but those same teams in a playoff atmosphere in a Stanley Cup playoff or playoff game, or they're just in the first round, second round. It's honestly unbelievable. But we'll talk more baseball as the show goes along. But let's dive right into football, Patrick. I think the statement win of the season for Alabama last year was this Georgia game. It was kind of Kalen DeBoer's basically coming out party. They won it. They won it in a solid fashion, but it was a bit ugly. Got out to a big lead and then had to protect it late. This game in Athens, I felt like not necessarily dominated, but they were in control for the entire game there, and got a chance to once again knock off Kirby Smart.
Yeah, I mean, I think Alabama had this one pretty comfortably from the get-go.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll talk a little bit about Ty Simpson here in a minute, but he looked really good. And it's definitely a sight for sore eyes for Alabama because you're starting to see a guy really blossom into this quarterback that you knew he could be coming out of high school. But to go into Athens, Georgia, and pick up a win like that after the turmoil of week one, everyone writing you off. I'm going to quote my guy, Geno Smith. They wrote me off, but I ain't right back, though. I mean, I think they jumped out to 14-0 lead.
Yeah.
And while the final score was 24-21, it had the feel of last year where it's like, okay, Bama jumps out. They look hot right out the get-go. Georgia had the touchdown to make it 14-7. But you felt like Alabama had this one pretty comfortably from the get-go. And, I mean, it's got to be a great thing to see if you're Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah.
I mean, your team answered the bell after week one's loss and has slowly started to progress into this Alabama team that, could make it's weird to say Alabama's going to make a sneaky run towards the college football playoff, but, it feels like they can definitely bounce back and make an actual run.
And I think what they've done really kind of, in my opinion, is almost twofold, where they were able to answer the bell about being on the road. It felt like this team had just been bludgeoned on the road the last time out in their season opener against Florida State in Tallahassee. They go back on the road and they answer the call. And also, number two, I like the creativity of the offense. I mean, it was everywhere. They had different packages. Ty Simpson ran for a touchdown. You had that great pass to Caden Proctor, who ended up going down to the 2-yard line. The big man almost scored. I was actually rooting for him to score.
I mean, we're pulling out all the stops. It almost seems like Ben Johnson's back in college football with getting the linemen involved. But I mean, it's just it was a great sight to see for Alabama fans. The fact that you can go in, you disrupt that home win streak, and I mean, I'm gonna deviate here a little bit. There was one thing that annoyed me the entire game.
Okay.
And it was that annoying, ominous sound. I forget what movie it's from, but it sounded like Georgia was just
Like
piping
Jaws?
it in.
What was it?
No, it wasn't Jaws. It was like one of those war movies.
Okay, so I have to go back and watch it because as I was watching it, I was in a really, really loud space and there was a lot of people around. So we heard the announcer sound, but unless I was in a quiet space, I wasn't able to hear the music that was being played over the speakers. And so
I mean, it sounded like every second or third down they were piping it in. And honestly, by the end of the first quarter, I was like, okay, man, you can stop hitting that button now. I think we get it.
Was it on third downs? Was it the Undertaker music? Was the Undertaker?
No, it wasn't the Undertaker.
Okay, yeah.
It's from some war movie. I'll get you the name of it in the break. But it was just like, man, I think he probably played it 40 to 45 times during the game, and I'm like, it loses its meaning. Okay, it was cool in the beginning. Okay, like the next 5 times, it's like, okay, still kind of cool. But then after that, I'm like, oh my goodness, dude, stop hitting the button.
I love it.
Like, we get
it. No button, music, no music. Kalen DeBoer and company got the job done there in Athens, Georgia. We got a chance to hear from the Alabama head coach after the game.
They do a great job in the run game. You knew that they were going to try to really hold the line of scrimmage, both defensively and then control it offensively. And so they did a nice job. But you play every play as its own play. You play every game as its own game. There's nothing that carries over. There's nothing that carries over into that situation. So just do your job, be fundamental, play with great energy, and make things happen. We didn't sit back on our heels and just hope that, they didn't execute. We went out there and attacked it and made a play.
What I really like about Kalen DeBoer is that he might be the most consistent coach right now in all of college football. And there were so many people that were making what I would consider very lazy arguments at the beginning of the season when they were like, he's got to show some fire. He's got to almost having to channel this Nick Saban thing that is just not him. But what I really like about him and his style is that, they take everything head on. He just says straight up, we got to be better. When they played against Florida State, they had to be better. When they played against their second game in La Monroe, they like what they did. We have to be better. And then after a big win, it's the same demeanor.
Exactly.
We can't carry things over. We have to just be better. He just stays on message, and I really like the fact that he doesn't let all this outside noise that was there a month ago get to him at all. And I find that demeanor really refreshing in college football because it is so easy to ride the highs and lows.
Yeah, and I mean, one guy that takes after his head coach is this guy right here, Ty Simpson, because honestly, everything that you just said can also be applied to him. Ty Simpson, I wouldn't say he had a horrible first game, but like the team, the whole team just played bad.
Sure.
And then slowly he had the next game against La Monroe where he didn't not complete a pass. I think we went 17 for
17. Yeah.
And then he had a nice game against Wisconsin. Right. And then here against Georgia, it was just like, man, this is a guy that's in his first year of being the starting quarterback. I mean, he looks like he looks like Mac Jones back in the day when he was just orchestrating, being a game manager, getting the ball out to your weapons on the outside, and then also threatening with the legs. So, I mean, it's just it's been impressive to see how fast he's started to develop in the SEC.
Right, and he's got several weapons, of course, and everybody knew about Ryan Williams coming into the season. But take a look at a guy like Horton, who has had a couple of big games. Jeremy Bernard, who's had some awesome games as well. And you're seeing Ty Simpson's numbers. He has an abundance of players to throw the football to, and they all really, really trust him. You see the final score there and his final numbers: more than 270 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 on the ground, 2 through the air, handing Georgia its first loss in 6 years between the hedges there. The last time was pre-COVID, 2019, in a double overtime game.
2019 feels like 20 years ago.
Yeah, it really does. It really does in a lot of different ways. Speaking as a Cubs fan, we haven't been to the playoffs since then. So yeah, it really has. And so depending on how you frame it, that's the history that they were able to make going into this season. Meanwhile, on the other side, Patrick, I find it really interesting because everybody keeps hammering Georgia and hammering Kirby Smart because I think he's now 1-7 against Alabama throughout his career, or 1-9 as you see it there versus Alabama. Alabama's won the last 3, and it feels like you can make those arguments. Does Bama have Kirby's number? Change the code. But the results don't change. Kirby Smart now 0-2 against Kalen DeBoer. What do you make of where Georgia goes from here? We knew they were a young football team, but where do they go from here after that loss between the hedges?
You know, I feel this loss, I felt like it was coming because Alabama needed their get-back game. They needed their game that they needed to prove that, hey, week 1 was just a fluke. But, you know, it feels like a punch in the face for Georgia because you just had that thrilling win. You were coming off the bye week after a thrilling win against Tennessee in a game where it's like, okay, we can still compete in the SEC after losing our quarterback that was there for the last 2 years. And it's just like you kind of take a step back in a way. Alabama played well on the defensive side as well. There were a couple blitzes that came back to haunt them, but it just feels like Georgia took a little bit of a step back in this game, which was a little bit of a surprise for me. The result really wasn't a surprise in my eyes. I still thought Alabama would win, but I thought it was going to be a higher scoring game.
Yeah, the score fell about where I thought it would. I was kind of surprised, though, too, just once again, it just felt like Georgia was playing behind the 8 ball, and you thought that maybe you'd get off to a quicker start, considering what happened the year before. They just weren't able to. I still really like Georgia's chances moving forward. We got a chance to hear from Kirby Smart, the veteran coach for the Georgia Bulldogs, after the game as well.
No, hurting is hurting. It doesn't matter what age you are. You know, the more invested you are, the more you hurt. My question is, what are you going to double down on? You know, it's a different day and age of college football. Like, it's completely different out there. We've accepted it as coaches. We have to do a good job of the players responding to it. And, you know, what do you double down on? I know more about my team right now than I did a week ago. I can guarantee you that. And that's what fires me up. And I got a lot of optimism after that game because I learned a hell of a lot more about my team than I had the previous weeks.
So for Georgia, it's about building. And he knows he's got a young squad, and he's saying all the right things. I think Kirby will have his guys in the right place as they move forward.
Yeah, just got to get off to that fast start, as you mentioned, falling behind the 8 ball, not only in just the last 2 matchups against Alabama, but this year. I mean, you do go back to that Tennessee game, and Joey Aguilar lit it up early on. Georgia was able to come back and win the game, but, you know, it almost felt like it was just too much to ask for, getting down in that 14-0 hole early and looking for another comeback.
Absolutely. Lessons learned from both sides, especially there in Georgia. Meanwhile, Alabama, they'll move on to play Vanderbilt this week. It's one of our topics going into today, a big Taco Tuesday. We'll look at today's topics. How about Tennessee evading an upset there in Starkville, going to overtime? We will chat with some of our friends over there in Knoxville about that matchup. It's Overreaction Tuesday, of course. We got to overreact to everything. This is how it is in college. It's how it is in college sports overall. And how about Texas A&M? Still undefeated. They look really, really, really good going into that game against the Auburn Tigers, especially defensively. We'll break that one down as well with our guests on today's show. We will have Sam Granville. Got a chance to catch up with him kind of drive-by style a couple of days ago. He's just kind of like a high and by as we talk to Sam Rothman. We'll get a chance to catch up with him over there in Knoxville. And Parker Ream will join us from Waco. We'll talk Texas A&M and maybe even a little bit of Baylor as well as both teams there move forward. Stay with us here on Southeast Sports Plus. We'll continue with Hour 1 next. And welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. The first domino has fallen in the SEC as far as head coaching vacancies go, as Sam Pittman is now out as the Arkansas head coach. We are very, very pleased to be joined by Trey Dare. We were with him late last week, and we talked about just how pivotal that Notre Dame game was from a perception standpoint and from an execution standpoint. It's now been about 24 hours since the decision was made there, Trey. What's the overall vibe been like there in Arkansas, and some of the ways that they're trying to put the pieces back together for the final part of the regular season?
Well, guys, clearly a change had to be made. It was just a matter of what that change would be. Could they've gotten by with some defensive staffing changes, hung on to Pittman? Would it have possibly been the athletic director? Could it have been a full house cleaning? Who knows? This is what they came up with, but it was very clear at the end of that Notre Dame. It was when, not if, Sam Pittman would be done. And would it just be, the idea of like, well, hey, we got to get some things in order. He could stick around for a little while, whatever it would have been. There was nobody that walked out of Razorback Stadium after losing that game by 43 points in the way they got dismantled, and to see a very clear decline on the program. You're right there with Ole Miss. You're right there with Memphis, but that's Memphis.
Yeah.
All due respect to a Tiger team that's probably going to win, 10, 11 games this year. That's not Ole Miss. So they got worse in there. And, from week 1 to week 2, and now the third straight week here with the third straight loss, the whole thing was just off the rails. A change absolutely had to be made, and unbelievable that they're firing coaches in September. It's crazy.
Trey, at the top of the hour, we talked about the Arkansas defense being some of the worst in the SEC so far. It seemed like when I was watching that game, it seemed like the effort wasn't there. Do you think Pittman lost the team ahead of his final game?
Absolutely. I think this is a climate of what you get in modern day college athletics. You go out and you're open for business, and you bring in guys that are out for their best interest and their bottom dollar. So essentially, these are pretty much just mercenaries that are hunting paychecks. And, you lose a tough one to Ole Miss. Well, how are you going to respond? Well, you lose again, blowing an 18-point lead, fumbling the ball away. It was going to be really hard to keep their attention, and that all fell on the head coach, and they couldn't do it. I think very clearly, I'm not signaling out any player, but collectively they quit. They weren't running to the ball. You had guys naked in that Notre Dame offense. There was nobody anywhere close to them. Not just missed tackles, but just a lack of effort, like not even getting a body on a guy. And I guess you want to generalize it and be like, well, the head coach isn't out there making tackles. He can't do anything about that. Bullcrap. You don't believe in what you're doing. The message gets lost. This is what happened. You get mad at your teacher. You get mad at mom and dad. You tune them out. It's just a way of life. Mm-hmm. It takes a really special person to try and keep all that together. Sam Pittman's a fantastic guy. I wish really well for him. Really, really do. Wish so badly it was going to work out. And mark my words, I say this with a ton of confidence. They will never find a guy that wanted the job and believed in how special the job was as much as Sam Pittman. But guys, that's just not enough.
Yeah.
Just, being really happy to be there and having a lot of pride and all that. You got to get results. 32 and 34, he had been given nearly 5.5 years. He got I'll never, feel bad for somebody getting an opportunity to coach in the SEC, coach in the NFL, whatever it was. Was it a fair opportunity? We could argue that all we want. Even the athletic director saying like, well, we got to increase resources. Well, that indicates that Sam Pittman didn't have the resources to compete, and a change has to be made.
Absolutely. And spinning it forward, now a change will be made as far as the head coaching goes, but it's a blast from the past that will take over their immediate future. It was so interesting. I tell you what, Trey, Patrick and us, we played some sound in the first block, and just seeing the signage of the Arkansas with Petrino there, it felt like we were back in 2013. What is it that you think that Petrino can do as far as maybe injecting some enthusiasm or some new energy? Because you mentioned a change had to be made. What do you think about this change and Petrino now taking over?
Yeah, I can't believe we're here. It's unreal. We'll see what Bobby has. If I'm just being honest, I think he's a brilliant mind. I do. I think he's a great play caller. But why did it end the way it did at Louisville?
Yeah.
Why was it just? There's a lot of dysfunction there at Texas A&M. They spent the money, I guess, in the wrong place on that roster. But, why couldn't he get more out of those players? Even at Missouri State, you're a really good point. Things don't get better with time, right? Like, our bodies don't get better after a certain point. They start to break down. Coaches, it seems like when they lose that fastball, it gets away from them. But still, all that said, this was a top 10 offense in yards a year ago. Petrino had a big hand in that. They did have it clicking against Alabama, Arkansas State, and Ole Miss. Hey, Taylor Green played. They lost, but that was the game of Taylor Green's life. So how much?
From Oxford to Auburn, from Fayetteville to College Station, and from Columbia to, well, Columbia, and all points in between. All things SEC, straight ahead on Southeast Sports Plus. The show is just ahead.
That way. It doesn't mean it can't work that way, but it's just not that simple. When Bobby Petrino took this job over, there was like 7 or 8 kids from the state of Arkansas, wanted to be Razorbacks, and went on to play in the NFL. Last I checked, we don't have that right now. And the way that players can jump around, even if you did have that, may be kind of hard to maintain them. But yeah, excited to see what it looks like. But if I promise you this, everybody at home, everybody will watch this clip, pay attention. That building feels different right now.
Yeah.
The day one he walked in there, and it's, all eyes on me. Do I have everybody's attention now? But how just because that change is made, what kind of results are we going to get?
Absolutely. Trey, I know you're super busy and you have a very busy day ahead of you. Thank you so much for your time here today on Southeast Sports Plus.
All right, guys, take care.
Thank you, Trey. Trey Dare out of Fayetteville. Obviously, Patrick, there's a lot of work to be done right now, not only with Arkansas as a football program, but what's ahead for their future. I think Trey laid it out really well.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I know in West Virginia's case, Pat McAfee has said it. Sometimes to move forward, you have to go back to where the best you ever were, and I don't think Bobby Petrino was the best that Arkansas ever was. But while he was talking, that's all I could think about was I was like, man, this sounds a lot like the Rich Rodriguez saga at West Virginia, and that's not going too well right now. So hopefully Bobby Petrino can do a little bit better than Rich Rod.
Maybe so. We'll see if it's addition by subtraction there in Fayetteville. Thanks to Trey so much for his time. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we will talk with our good buddy Roger Wallace as Texas goes back to work this weekend, now in the SEC. That's next.